Welcome to Alternatives for Children's training on equal employment opportunity, discrimination, harassment, and retaliation prevention in the workplace. The goal of this presentation is to help employees identify, report, and prevent discrimination and harassment. Should you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact the Human Resources Department immediately. Why are we here? We are here to discuss equal employment opportunity and to outline the organization's commitment to prohibit discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. Educating employees on these expectations is morally the right thing to do, the best way to create the kind of workplace that promotes dignity, fairness, and respect, and critical to our continued success as an organization. Benjamin Franklin once stated, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." In working to fundamentally prevent discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, Alternatives for Children is able to promote the following actions. Establish a high standard of respect and professionalism. Make the organization's policy and your own commitment to it known. Be vigilant. Know when discrimination, harassment, or retaliation is happening. And report inappropriate conduct. Alternatives for Children has extensive policies in place to ensure that each employee has the opportunity to thrive in an environment free from discrimination, harassment, or retaliation. These policies prohibit discrimination on the basis of protected characteristics, prohibit sexual harassment, prohibit protected characteristic-based harassment, prohibit retaliation, and explain how to report a complaint. As an organization, Alternatives for Children takes any and all violations of these policies very seriously. Policies on discrimination, harassment, and retaliation can be found in the Employee Handbook or on the public drive. Equal Employment Opportunity. Equal Employment Opportunity, or EEO, pertains to laws that prohibit specific types of job discrimination in the workplace. The basic EEO definition is the idea that everyone should be treated fairly when they're considered for various employment decisions, including but not limited to hiring, promotion, termination, compensation, etc. Under EEO, it is against the law to discriminate against someone because of specific aspects of a person's identity. These aspects are known as protected characteristics. Employers cannot use protected characteristics as reasons to make employment decisions. In other words, they cannot discriminate against those characteristics. As outlined in the list below, protected characteristics span a wide variety of identifiers, which can include age, race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, etc. If there is an issue regarding discrimination, we at Alternatives for Children need to hear about it. Any and all circumstances of discrimination under EEO are taken very seriously. Please note, it is every employee's responsibility to uphold the organization's commitment to prevent discrimination in the workplace. If you see something, please say something. What does equal employment opportunity mean? As stated previously, EEO means the rule of equal treatment. When making employment decisions, Alternatives for Children must consider qualifications, skills, and abilities. Protected characteristics will not be considered. Possible exceptions can be made for reasonable accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. Questions regarding reasonable accommodations should be directed to the Human Resources Department immediately. When do EEO laws and principles come into play? EEO laws and principles come into play in all aspects of the employment relationship. As stipulated by EEO, Alternatives for Children prohibits discrimination in hiring decisions, work assignments and schedule, performance reviews, promotions, disciplinary actions, and termination decisions. Harassment protection. Harassment is defined as unwelcome conduct that is based on any protected characteristic or personal identifier. Harassment is not limited to that of a sexual nature. Harassment includes discrimination that is directed at an employee due to any protected characteristic, offensive behavior based on stereotypes about a protected class and behavior that is intended to cause discomfort or humiliation, and any expression of contempt or hatred for a group to which the victim belongs, based on any protected characteristic. At Alternatives for Children, we are taking a zero-tolerance policy toward harassment. Behavior that is defined as harassment will be subject to the anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy, even if the offense appears minor or does not rise to unlawful conduct. Alternatives for Children will apply the following process under zero tolerance. Any harassing behavior will be investigated. As appropriate, disciplinary action will be taken. Repeated behavior is particularly serious and will be taken into account. Disciplinary action may include up to termination. Sexual harassment is defined as behavior characterized by the making of unwelcome and inappropriate sexual remarks or physical advances in the workplace or other professional or social situations. Unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature constitutes sexual harassment when submission to such conduct, made either explicitly or implicitly as a term or condition of an individual's employment, submission to or rejection of such conduct by an individual is used as the basis for employment decisions affecting such individual, or conduct has the effect of unreasonably interfering with an individual's work performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. When discussing sexual harassment, quid pro quo, otherwise known as this for that, is often identified. Quid pro quo sexual harassment occurs when the employee's manager, supervisor, or other authority figure suggests that the employee will be given something, such as a raise or promotion, in exchange for a sexual favor. Quid pro quo harassment may also occur when an authority figure threatens to reprimand, penalize, or terminate an employee for refusing to engage in some type of sexual behavior. Conditions of quid pro quo can be clearly stated or implied, and they can involve any aspect of the employment relationship. Hostile work environment harassment is defined as the unwelcome conduct of supervisors or coworkers that creates a discriminatory environment, which a reasonable person would find so abusive that it impacts the ability to work. Hostile work environment harassment can be based on sex or any other protected characteristic. Common examples of hostile work environment harassment include, but are not limited to, discussing sex acts or using sexually suggestive language, making offensive remarks about protected categories of people, displaying racist or sexually inappropriate pictures, using slurs or insensitive terms, making inappropriate gestures, or unwanted touching. Hostile work environment harassment typically goes beyond common frustrations at work, such as a rude coworker or an unpleasant assignment. It is severe or pervasive. Should you experience hostile work environment harassment, please contact the Human Resources Department immediately. When someone has a preconceived idea about how someone should act, behave, or look based on that of that person's sex, it is known as sex stereotyping. Sex stereotyping occurs when conduct or personality traits are considered inappropriate simply because they may not conform to other people's ideas or perceptions about how either sex should act or look. Harassing someone because the person does not conform to gender stereotypes as to appropriate looks, speech, personality, or lifestyle is prohibited. When identifying who can be a harasser, the list can be expansive. Harassers can be managers and supervisors, executives, coworkers, clients or customers, vendors or contractors, members of the public, men or women, and even you. Harassment can occur in a variety of circumstances, including but not limited to at work or anywhere while working, at work-related functions and company-sponsored social events, even if off-premises, and at private sites, off-duty, for example, after-work drinks. You may ask why off-duty harassment may be considered workplace harassment. It may not be widely known, but employers are responsible for sexual harassment outside of work when that harassment involves employees, vendors, customers, or clients. Harassment occurring while off-duty can still create a hostile environment when the employee is back at work. For example, a supervisor who has made inappropriate physical contact with an employee at happy hour is the same person who the employee will need to report to back at work. A coworker sending sexually explicit messages or images through social media over the weekend is still somebody an employee will have to interact with during the work week. In summation, harassment can occur anywhere. Although you may not experience harassment in the workplace firsthand, you may find yourself witnessing harassment. As a bystander, you may have a duty to report the incident. Should you witness harassment, certain strategies can be applied to assist the impacted individual. You can recognize and acknowledge offenses, talk to the person impacted by the incident, get help, speak up, and report. Most importantly, do not look to intervene alone. If you experience or witness harassment, it is essential that the incident be reported immediately. Should you need to report harassment, please do not hesitate to escalate your concerns to the Director of Human Resources. If the HR Director is not available, submit your concerns to any other supervisor or manager with whom you are comfortable speaking. Complaint forms can be submitted in writing to the Human Resources Department as well. If you need to report any incidences of sexual harassment, the Sexual Harassment Complaint Form, as shown, is available on the public drive. Otherwise, you are welcome to contact the Human Resources Department to obtain a copy of this form. A word about supervisors. When a supervisor receives a complaint or otherwise learns of sexual harassment in the workplace, he or she is required to take immediate responsive action. Supervisors are expected to model appropriate workplace behavior and must report any harassment they observe or know of, even if no one objects to the harassment. This is true even if the supervisor or manager thinks the conduct is trivial, or even if the harassed individual asks that it not be reported. Supervisors and managers will be subject to discipline for failing to report suspected sexual harassment, otherwise knowingly allowing sexual harassment to continue, or for engaging in any retaliation. Alternatives for Children prohibits any form of retaliation for reporting any incident of discrimination or harassment. Alternatives for Children will not retaliate against any employee who makes a claim of discrimination or harassment or helps someone else do so, participates in an investigation, or otherwise exercises a right, for example, requesting a reasonable accommodation. Remember, retaliation is unlawful. As noted in Alternatives for Children's policy on retaliation, the company strictly prohibits any form of retaliation for reporting, in good faith, any incident or situation of discrimination or harassment, pursuing any claim of discrimination or harassment, or otherwise participating or cooperating in any investigation of a complaint of discrimination or harassment. Should you need to seek additional support, these public entities are available for all employees. They include the New York State Division of Human Rights, the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, Commissions on Human Rights, Suffolk and Nassau counties, as well as local law enforcement. Thank you for participating in Alternatives for Children's training on equal employment opportunity, discrimination, harassment, and retaliation prevention in the workplace. If you have any questions or concerns regarding this presentation, feel free to contact the Human Resources Department.